live on scene. I'm in Sherburne County, Minnesota. You can see the signs behind me. We'll turn around here in just a minute. I'm TC, this is MBRR Media, and I am on my way to Princeton, Minnesota it's really windy, guys, so bear with me. I'm on my way to Princeton, Minnesota to meet the Mostad family, Blake and his mom and brothers and his sister Bailey. You guys have seen her here on the channel. But I decided on my way I was going to stop. AVA, thanks for being here. Jennifer, thanks for being here. Guys, share this out, please. Hit that like. Big shout out to my show producers, Tav from here on YouTube, and IMAP over on Subscribe Star. If you want to support the show, support the work that I do, please tune in and pick a channel membership or Subscribe Star membership. I am recording on my GoPro, so if it looks like I'm handling a bunch of things all at once, it's because I am. It is windy. We are going to I wanted to capture this flag view, but we're going to walk down to an area here and get a little bit closer to where law enforcement parks, and we're going to talk a little bit about my experience with Sheriff Joel Brott. Not personally, never personally had any experiences with him. My GoPro just fell over. So, but I have had professional experience in the sense of everybody that I cover, everybody that I have covered in this area has been victimized by Sheriff Joel Brott in the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office. So I'm going to flip the camera around and we're going to walk down the law enforcement side of the. So here we go. Sherburne County, here, Government Center. Look at this place, by the way. This is Elk River, Minnesota is only about 25,000 people or so. I mean, look at the massive expanse of this building. This place is just absolutely huge. And it's right inside there, as we talk, it's right inside there where one of Sheriff Joel Brott's bullies, a sheriff's deputy, actually I think he was a captain, might have even been the chief of Sherburne County, manhandled a grandmother. Yeah, Sherburne County Sheriff's Office manhandled a grandmother about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, during a county board meeting because the county board didn't like the fact that she was criticizing the county board by name. And so they ordered her removed, and one of the thugs from the sheriff's office here came out and physically, and the videos on my channel, one of the thugs came out and physically manhandled Terry. That's interesting. There's some squads parked here. It's got a laptop in it. Huh. Laptop's open. This is I get a kick out of. I get a kick out of how much we get told not to drive distracted. But if you look inside the squads, look at how much distracted driving law enforcement does. So, yeah. Let's see here. Okay, no, he doesn't have his laptop. This one's not running and the laptop is off. So yeah, anyway, we're going to see if we can get someplace where we're a little sheltered from the wind. Yeah, we're going to stand down here. And those are law enforcement only parking spots. So, yeah. So there's cameras right here. Look at camera there, camera there, camera on the top. There's cameras everywhere. They're always being surveilled by government. So, hey, I think we're out of the wind. So that is the detention center there. You guys can see that. those narrow slotted windows, those are cells. So that's the detention center right there. You can see that. Now, how's the wind? Is it better? Is the wind better? So let's do this. There we go. Flip the camera back around. So yeah, I was telling you guys a little bit about the dirty nature of the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office and the fact that Sheriff Joel Brott allowed one of his senior command staff to manhandle a woman, physically remove her in the middle of her public comments during a county board meeting. And then she was escorted back in and she was allowed to make her comments, and there was never really an official apology. But then shortly after that, I caught wind of the story of Walker Anderson from here in Sherburne County, who was wrongfully charged with violating the Federal Firearms Act and suffered under the unlawful prosecution of the county attorney of Sherburne County, aided by Sheriff Joel Brott and his staff, his detectives. He was aided in that wrongful prosecution, or she was aided in that wrongful prosecution by the sheriff's office. Now, Sheriff Joel Brott multiple times has stated that he's just this really big pro Second Amendment guy. He was going to make Sherburne County a Second Amendment sanctuary state or county. He was going to stand behind the lawful firearms owners, and he was going to do everything he could to protect firearms ownership in the county. But it was his sheriff's office, his staff, that prosecuted Walker Anderson and kept that prosecution going by continuing to assist the county attorney. And it was just a couple of months ago when it was decided in the Minnesota Supreme Court that ghost guns, as they like to refer to them in a very scary way, were not illegal. That a home manufactured firearm that is not required to have a serial number on it in the United States, in fact, there's no way to serialize that firearm. There was no way for that to even be illegal, because there was no way for that to be tracked at the federal level. So that got tossed out. And then, from this same location, folks, from this same spot, from the same place, from this location right here, the sheriff staff tried to keep from releasing the seized firearms from Walker. Let that sink in. After the charges were dropped, after the case was dropped, after it was ruled, it was dismissed, the sheriff tried to make Walker jump through a bunch of hoops to get his lawfully owned, self-produced firearms back. Now, those two cases are bad enough, but this same agency, the same corrupt agency, this sheriff's office agency, this problematic, authoritarian, tyrannical sheriff and his agency covered for the Minnesota State Patrol and for Trooper Moser when he, back on April 9th, doing over 120 miles an hour in a response to a wrong-way driver, made terrible decisions and ended up paralyzing Blake Mostad on April 9th. And Sheriff Brott, that night, from this location, from the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Brott made a determination without any investigation that Trooper Moser could not stop his vehicle in time. He had no video, he had no dash cam, he had no body cam, he had no data, he had nothing. Nothing. He had no way of verifying that. at that point. And the cover-up began. So for nearly 4 months, the sheriff and his staff covered up for one of their fellow Blue Line thugs, Trooper Ryan Moser from the Minnesota State Patrol, for nearly 4 months. And then when they finally got it turned over to the Sherburne County Attorney's Office, the Sherburne County Attorney's Office sat on it for some time before they kicked it off to another county. That's how corrupt this agency is. Sherburne County deputies, the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office command staff, the Sherburne County Sheriff. That's how freaking dirty they are. That's how completely, absolutely criminal this organization is. Absolutely criminal. So eventually, having turned this over to the Dakota County County Attorney's Office, the county attorney in Dakota County sat on it and sat on it and sat on it, and then decided, after sitting on it long enough, that they weren't going to charge the trooper, but instead they were going to charge the wrong way driver, 70-some-year or 80-some-year-old man, who then ultimately ended up dying in the wait, in the build-up to the final decision to not charge the trooper. So the system protects itself, and that started on the night of April 9th from right here in the heart of Sherburne County. From right here with Sherburne County Sheriff's Office staff. Chiefly, most importantly, with the corrupt sheriff, the lying sheriff, Mr. I'm pro Second Amendment, we're going to make this a Second Amendment sanctuary county, all of that. Already violated their oaths when it comes to Terry and having her removed and using force. It was unlawful force. It was excessive use of force. The sheriff's office used excessive force in removing an elderly grandmother from a county board meeting. They wrongfully charged and seized firearms from a law-abiding young man and then worked to cover up the tragic events that paralyzed Blake Mostad, whose life has been forever changed because of law enforcement. And I hear all the time, you got to stop judging all law enforcement. You got to stop judging these guys, TC. You have to understand it's just a few bad apples. No, it's not just a few bad apples. Folks, it is not just a few bad apples. I've said this on so many of my other videos. I've said this so many times. You don't get to claim that it's just a few bad apples, because what we were taught, what we were absolutely foundationally taught as children, and I don't care how old you are, you've heard this, one bad apple ruins the whole bunch, right? One bad apple. One bad apple ruins every one of the apples. When there's a bad apple present, there are no good apples. People have to understand that. You cannot allow a bad apple to exist in a bag or in a bundle or in a bunch with other apples without it ruining the other apples. There's never a time where all the good apples rub off on the bad apple and the bad apple all of a sudden becomes a good apple. And that's law enforcement, folks. That in particular is the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office. This is a corrupt and dangerous agency. They covered for a state trooper who should have been charged. They sat on it and they sat on it and they sat on it. They orchestrated it, got it to a point where they couldn't sit on it any longer, kicked the can down the road, left the charging decisions in the hands of probably one of the other most corrupt agencies or counties in the state, which is Dakota County. And then, after that, announced no charges on anybody but the wrong way driver, who is now dead. And so there can never be justice. There will never be justice for Blake. There will never be justice for Blake Mostad, who had his entire youth snatched from him. At the age of 17, minding his own business, gets in a small fender bender with an older gentleman who was confused and driving the wrong way, which he shouldn't have been doing. But then in the response to the wrong way driver, not to the accident that was caused, but in response to the wrong way driver, Blake and his brother get out to check on the other driver to make sure he's okay, and then Trooper Ryan Moser, here in Sherburne County, working for the State Patrol in Minnesota, does over 120 miles an hour, creams these poor children, shatters Blake's legs, shatters his spine at the neck, and walks away scot-free. How on earth can any member of this agency, how can anybody for the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office have any trust that not only is their sheriff a dirty piece of crap, a dirty swine, yeah, I'm talking about you, but like the top, like the very top, it all bleeds downhill. If the sheriff is dirty, the chief deputies are dirty. If the chief deputies are dirty, every deputy underneath them is dirty. Every single one of them. They are all dirty. Why? Because their sheriff is dirty. Because on the night where the sheriff could have said, we're going to wait for all of the other statements, we're going to wait for all of the reports to be done, we're going to wait for everything to come out in the wash before we make an announcement, the sheriff announces the trooper was not at fault. And that night started the death count for Dale Braun, for that old man. Well, yeah, Bob, I would say the same thing too. I don't know what your point is. The difference in this case, though, is when you have a corrupt agency, when you have a corrupt sheriff, when you have a corrupt sheriff's office and staff, the welfare recipient doesn't have the power to arrest. The welfare recipient and the other people don't have the power to ruin your life. The welfare recipient doesn't have the power to cover up for corrupt cops. And so if your sheriff is willing to cover up for one of his thin blue line gang members in the state patrol, then his staff will do the same thing. To a man, they're all oath breakers, because they didn't come out and call out what the trooper did. And I don't care how nice they are. But see, Bob, that's the thing. They're not collecting your taxes. The government collects your taxes. And by the way, if you don't want to pay your taxes, if you refuse to pay your taxes, who do they send to come take you away when you don't pay your taxes? They send their armed thugs. They send their armed agents of the state. They send people with badges and guns. So, without cops, they can't tread on you. Cops are convenience. So on my way to Princeton to take part in Blake's fundraiser today or this afternoon, I wanted to stop here, and I just wanted to do a video finally where I could kind of condense these three cases. Grandmother Terry being physically harassed and physically assaulted by a deputy, and while exercising her natural right to free speech. Then Walker Anderson being wrongfully charged, wrongfully having his weapons seized from him, an illegal seizure, violation of his constitutional rights, that he'll never get any recompense for. Then the cover-up to protect Trooper Ryan Moser by Sheriff Joel Brott of the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office. What do I suggest? I suggest that cops be held to a constitutional standard. I suggest that cops be required to take training in the Constitution every year. I suggest that it be implemented into their funding, that if they refuse to do the training and they cannot get 100% accreditation in the constitutional training for their staff, that they not be funded. And I actually insist that they be held to a higher standard. No, I agree. We have no need for the number of police and law enforcement that we have in the United States, let alone in Minnesota, especially Sherburne County. Now, one of the reasons Sherburne County has such a big facility is, of course, they contract with the feds to house ICE and immigration and border patrol detainees. Well, there are, who would teach this training? There are hundreds of constitutional scholars, especially like from the Institute for Justice, that would be, I can almost guarantee you, would be thrilled to teach a class like that. But see, agencies like the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office, they're not interested in training their staff on the Constitution. Oh, hey, thanks. I really appreciate that. They're not interested in training in the Constitution. They're more interested in training on how to violate people's rights. They're more interested in use of force. You're a soft. Well, I'm glad that you are. I'm not a soft sit. So I bet you can't even define what that means. So yeah, like I said, I wanted to do a video from here at the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office as close as I could get. I find it ironic that they don't have a lobby that you can actually go to. And of course, while they're out treading on the rights of people all over Sherburne County, they are well protected from having to deal with the civilian population. So we're gonna just walk around to the facility. We're gonna get some training for these squads. I did take them when I said I was going to be here, so I was hoping they wouldn't come out because I really didn't want to deal with them, but I was kind of half expecting that they would send somebody out. So yeah, but I mean, this right here. Well, I'm not a soft sit, so I don't know anything about that. I'm not asking you to follow my philosophical conclusions as it relates to the Constitution. I mean, if you'd like to come on and discuss on the show sometime and discuss my constitutional perspective and my beliefs as it relates to natural rights, going as far back as Aristotle, so Aristotelian philosophy. If you'd like to come on and discuss that, I'd be more than happy to have that conversation. I doubt that you're willing to do that or prepared to do that. I don't see how what you're saying is a corollary, and to be completely fair as well, the biggest group of sovereign citizens in the United States is law enforcement. Law enforcement is the biggest organization out there that is full of sovereign citizens. Cops are sovereign citizens. They have qualified immunity that absolutely protects them from the repercussions of doing wrong. Doesn't protect them from prosecution, but as we know, cops are rarely prosecuted when they do violate people's natural rights. So I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. Like I said, I just wanted to do an on-scene from Sherburne County because I want to show you that corruption doesn't look like some pimply-faced, fat boss hog type. Thank you, Skipper. I really appreciate that. The corruption doesn't look like a pimply-faced boss hog guy. Corruption is often well-groomed. Corruption often wears a very nice, respectable uniform and has a, a very good physical appearance. It even has a good public face. See, that's how corruption starts. That's how corruption gets in and gets accepted. Corruption ends up ultimately leading to these beautiful buildings in a county that's 26,000 people. Thanks for that super chat from Skipper and from Lady Jen. How do we end up in a situation where, be frank, a county the size of Sherburne County in a town the size of Elk River, how do we end up with a government center that is probably one of the most expensive buildings in the area? We end up with it because of corruption. Because the county can decide how much your property is worth. Because ultimately it's not your property. You don't own your property. You rent your property from the government. And if you refuse to pay for that rental agreement, if you refuse to pay whatever they determine your rent needs to be on an annual basis, they send people here in Sherburne County out to your house with guns and badges and handcuffs to take your property away from you. That's how it works. So what we're going to do here in a few minutes, I'm going to wrap this up and we're going to go live again from another location, and that location is going to be as close as I can pinpoint the actual scene of the crime. We're going to be heading out to the scene of the crime where Trooper Ryan Moser attempted to unalive Blake Mostad and his brother and their friend and Dale Braun. They succeeded in killing Dale Braun. I lay the death of Dale Braun squarely on Trooper Ryan Moser and on Sheriff Joel Brott and his staff. Like I said, if there's one bad apple, all the apples are bad. And if the apple at the top is rotten, all the staff are rotten. They're all rotten. And I gave three cases, folks, that exemplify just how rotten Sherburne County Sheriff's Office is. Yet they continue to be allowed to operate. And you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to like what I'm saying. That's fine. But I always open my platform to anybody who wants to disagree, over and over and over again. Bob Smith, it doesn't matter whether or not he tried to do it on purpose. He was doing over 120 miles an hour on a highway. He was driving so fast, he could not control his vehicle. If you or I did that, Bob, we would never have gotten out of jail. We would have been locked up, thrown on trial, and would have been sitting in prison already. But because he's a blue line thug, protected by other blue line thugs and by a corrupt injustice system, he gets to walk away scot-free. No financial penalties, no criminal penalties. He's just free. And Blake Mostad's life is ruined. And it started the night that Sheriff Joel Brott declared him innocent, declared Ryan Moser innocent, without any evidence of wrong, of anything at all. ABA, I thought I had a playlist put together. Otherwise, you'd have to go through and pull them all and and share them. Somebody asked a question. I thought you were gonna. Well, the time can come for that. How do we make changes that actually stay? I don't know. We'd have to go back and we'd have to ask the founding fathers. How did they make changes? It was a long, slow process in the build up to independence. The problem is, frankly, after the foundation of this country, we're not a nation, we are a republic. After the creation of our republic, we lost it under Lincoln. Lincoln destroyed our republic, and you've all heard me say that numerous times. But as I was saying before, I offer my platform to anybody who wants to challenge me. I offer my platform to anybody who wants to come on and take me on in a friendly debate about my philosophy. I offer it to everybody. Friends, enemies who disagree with me, friends who disagree with me. No one ever takes me up on it. Absolutely, Ryan. Founding fathers predicted this was going to happen. They warned us. The Anti-Federalists in particular, if you haven't read the Anti-Federalists, you please do. Read the Anti-Federalist writings. Read the writings of Thomas Jefferson and his cohorts. They said that this was what was going to happen. So I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to be going live from the next location. And we're going to do a little bit of a video to show you just how criminal. You wonder why what, Bob? You have all these like little like straw man red herring things that you say, but Bob, my email is mbrrpodcast@yahoo.com. 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 You send me an email, more than happy to let you come on and embarrass me. Come on my show, Bob. Come on the show and embarrass me in front of my audience. You won't do it. You'll come up with an excuse as to why you won't, like you're saying right now. You won't. I just gave you the email numerous times. And most people won't because they just don't have the intellect and the study of the philosophy of the natural rights, Lockean philosophy, Rutherfordian philosophy, and Aristotelian philosophy to really take me on the topic. Benjamin Franklin is frequently quoted, and I believe accurately, as he was leaving, as he was walking out of what we now know as Constitution Hall, elderly woman said, what have you left us? What form of government have you left us, Mr. Franklin? And Benjamin looked at her very seriously and said, a republic, if you can keep it. I don't think we did. In places like Sherburne County and the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office are examples of why we've lost the republic and how. Rumor is Joel Brott is retiring. I have very little expectation that the person who replaces him will be better. Bob, I don't have any wiggle room on this issue because I'm convinced of it. I'm convicted of those things. Why should I go into a debate or a conversation without being convinced I'm right and that you're wrong? That's not how philosophy works. That's not how convictions work. If you're left in a position, I'm willing to be shown how I'm wrong if you can do it. But you're going to have to bring hard and fast receipts to show me how the philosophy of men like Locke and Rutherford and Aristotle is wrong and how I'm misunderstanding it. I just don't think you can do it. Email one more time for you, Bob, and anybody else that wants to take me on. mbrrpodcast@yahoo.com. Thank you for the super chats, for the likes. Please share this out and be ready to watch here in about 15-20 minutes. We're going to be going live from the scene of the crime, and we're going to show you that. And then we're going to be heading over to meet Blake and his family, and I've got some gifts for him, and they said we could stream. So really appreciate you guys being here. And until a few minutes from now, Sic Semper. Tyrannus.